I want my 16-year-old son and the people in the future, when they're thinking about a career, whether it is spare time, part-time, full-time, that this is one of those that people say, you know what, that's a good choice, and people understand the value in it and the difference that comes from it. I don't like to tell people we have a better way. We just have another way.
Welcome to Direct Selling Shift, an exclusive podcast by DSN. I'm your host, Blake Mallon, and this is where direct selling high performers and experts share their most powerful shifts in mindset, skill set, and strategy to help you accelerate your business and amplify your impact. I challenge you to be present, open your mind, and let the shift begin. Welcome back to Direct Selling Shift. Our guest today has such an impressive career in direct selling, spanning more than 3 decades. Throughout his journey, he has achieved some remarkable milestones, building organizations, get this, with over 150,000 distributors across 21 countries. He currently holds the role of president of the Association of Network Marketing Professionals, ANMP. We'll talk a little bit more about what that means and what that is. He's a highly sought after keynote speaker, leadership trainer, masterful team builder. And what I love is he brings such a profound understanding of the habits, the traits, the practices of both leadership on the corporate and the field. And every time I am around him, I can just feel his genuine passion for this channel. And I'm going to warn all you listeners up front, his energy is completely contagious. I know today is going to be a very special conversation. So please help me welcome to the show, the one and only Garrett McGrath. Garrett, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing brilliantly. And I want to say, Blake, I'm a real fan, and thank you for all the effort and the value that the effort you put into making sure what you're putting out is of value. And just know I'm excited for our conversation and the value and what's going to come out of it here today.
Garrett, I appreciate all of that. So thank you for the kind words. The feeling is more than mutual. I'm always excited for all the guests. I really get pumped up for these conversations. It's something I enjoy to do, but I've really been looking forward to this conversation. I know you and we always have inspired dialogue when we're together at industry events, and you always do such a phenomenal job. And I just think today's conversation is going to be something special for anyone on their direct selling journey, whether they just got involved last week or they're someone like yourself that's made a career, a profession for decades. So I'm just excited to have you today. Thank you for the time, and I appreciate it. Let's dive in. I know we have a lot we probably will want to cover, and we'll see where this conversation goes. But for those that aren't familiar with you and your story, let's rewind the clock. 30 years, 3 decades. Bring us back to what attracted you to direct selling initially, and even more so, if there was a moment at any point in the last 30 years where you said, this is it, this is my career, this is my calling. Tell us about both those moments, how you got started and when you knew like this was it for you.
So this is another insight. You and I have talked about this. When you have a career, this is one that's worth writing down. It's one of the fundamentals I always think about. When you forget where you've come from, you're on your way back. So when our profession is one of the most redemptive, and it's an opportunity for new people to come in and to grow and do something different, it's important to remember where you came from and what you were thinking about at that time. And I tell people all the time, for my first 2.5 years, I was going broke enthusiastically. That doesn't sound super attractive, but what it is truthful about is I actually look back and realize I was blessed with a slow start. In fact, most of the challenges most people will have, I had to overcome them. And for most people, they don't come off to a fast start in network marketing. And when I look at someone in the eye, like you and I have talked about this, and I look at someone in the eye and say, I know how you feel, that person goes, I guess he does. When I look back at his first 2.5 years, I thought this way until, and so, I learned some lessons. In fact, it was one of the most exciting times. I love network marketing, and the realization for me was the law of association. who are you hanging out with? Are they raising you up? If you're the smartest person in the room, you need to get in a new room. And one of the things I really took the time to do was to get around some people who had a growth mindset, who had created the type of success that I was looking for, that had that kind of longevity. And that has been an evolution for me, just to finish the point and answer your question, is my understanding has changed over time. That was my first decade. In my second decade, I was also, I can say right now, blessed to, God wanted to give me a piece of humble pie. I would have been good with one piece, but he gave me the whole pie. And I had to go back because I had become what I thought was 13 foot tall and bulletproof. I thought it was all about me. I wasn't as focused on God and my faith. I wasn't as focused on that new person like we talked about. I thought it was, I was all that in a bag of chips. And what I realized, you're nothing without your ability to relate to and help your new person succeed. And when, broke would have been a good place to be where I came from. I was in a place where our son was doing heroin, our daughter was running away. We had no medical insurance. My wife, was pregnant and we didn't have any insurance to cover that pregnancy. And our business had collapsed and had to build a new. In fact, I was, what's the word? I was one of those guys that needed to be humbled a little bit. So.
Well, and it says a lot, Garrett, for you to even come on a show like this and publicly say that, right? Because, you have such an impressive career. Where you're at today, people can look at who you are, what you're doing, and it's so easy to maybe miss the journey that you've been on. What I'm hearing you share is you had to radically reinvent in the middle of that journey. How many times would you say over the last 30 years, you've had to level set, you've had to kind of reinvent yourself, you've had to restart or re-begin? And maybe you didn't mean like literally starting from scratch in a company or a program, but more mentally or mindset wise, if you were to look over 30 years, how many times have you had to do large reinventions on your journey?
Multiple times. And that's one of the things, I don't really like the word rebuild, because I think part of the challenge is it sounds like something's broken. And the realities is that in my mind, we should always be in continuous build mode. And I think one of the challenges we got in network marketing is that we have this tendency to tell people, set it and forget it. Find your customer, get them on SmartShip, and that's your recurring income. And maybe that worked at one time, but I really believe that things have changed today. It is, you have a customer, they get a result, they want to repeat purchase, and they maybe create a ripple effect, but you have to nurture that. And you can't take that for granted. And if you take your customer for granted, someone else is not going to. And the culture of network marketing is important. So when I started, what initially attracted me was PMPT. So do you ever, so I went into a time when I went to Baden-Powell House. So does anyone remember this? Do you know Man versus Wild? Do you know Bear Grylls? Do you ever see that show?
Of
I know
course,
you have an
yeah.
8-year-old and a 5-year-old, so maybe they've watched Man versus Wild. So as it turns out, my sponsors in network marketing were Sir Michael Grylls, may he rest in peace, and Lady Sally Grylls, who are the parents of Bear Grylls.
Okay.
So and they knew me because my parents were successful business owners. Sir Michael was on the board of the company that my father owned. I was looking at some other things, and Sally Grills was really kind to share with me network marketing. I don't know if you remember, a guy called David Hunt. He was the first Formula One. His brother was one of the first Formula One racing car winners in Europe, James Hunt. And that's what the movie's about as well. Well, David Hunt's his brother, and James Saunderson was there, and they did a presentation. They said PMPT, plenty of money, but I've seen people make money, but plenty of time to enjoy it resonated with me.
Okay.
So that was my first introduction. I said, if that's possible, and this is really built on building teams and helping other people, I would love to learn this. And as I said, I was going broke enthusiastically for my first 2.5 years. And it was nothing to do with my sponsors. It was nothing to do with my company and product. You know what they say, when the student's ready, the teacher appears?
Mm-hmm.
I think I needed to be humbled a little bit. I was a little too, I thought I knew it all. And I had to get around some mentors, and life had to humble me a little bit. I had to become more teachable, more coachable, which I was. That's another lesson I will say to you. Blake, you and I have coached a lot of people. It's easier to make a hungry person smart than a smart person hungry.
Mm-hmm.
And for me in the beginning, I needed that little bit of humility to understand that there were things I had to learn. It's not what you can do is important, it's what you can do and duplicate. I was good at gathering customers eventually, and that's how I lived, but I wasn't good at developing teams, because you learn it's not what you can do, it's what you can duplicate. You can't do something so well that it works, but it works so well that it doesn't duplicate. In other words, only you can do it. And those
Mm-hmm.
balances, you and I have learned, you've had to figure those things out. And over time, I've had to reinvent ourselves. As we said, the internet came along, you got social media, it's really changed.
I'm a fan of language, right? And
Yeah.
I just enjoy hearing the way you're articulating your story, because there's power in the words that you're sharing, because it's more than just language. It's more than just words. You're giving us some insight into your operating system, your belief system, right? Your kind of way of seeing the world. And I'm taking notes as you're talking. I love, right? There's no such thing as the word rebuild. Rebuild means there's something wrong, or we're constantly evolving, reinventing, adapting, learning, right? So I love that. And I've heard you now say a couple times, you had to be humbled, and
Yes.
you're looking back at those moments with some gratitude of how it helped you become who you are today. But let's go deeper there. So take one of those moments where you were being humbled at any point in your 30-year career. Go to the place where maybe you were down in the valley, you were going through what you were going through. It wasn't a time of rebuild, but it was definitely a challenging time where you had to reinvent in some direction. What did you do in order to grab the power, in order to grab the energy, in order to grab the discipline to continue to power through when you were in that time? Because so many of us, we're going to go through it. We're all going to go through those times, right? There might be a listener right now that's going through one of those valleys right now. Give us some insight when you were in that moment, not now looking back, but when you were in that moment, what got you through? What tools did you develop? What did you rely on that allowed you to come out the other side?
So those are great questions. I believe this is pain plus reflection equals growth.
Mm.
So I like to be intentional. I'm very analytical. I like to look back and go, the words I like is I like predictable. In other words, what can I learn from this? So I can say it looks like this again. So when I approach it again, I can predictably get myself out, but it also becomes sustainable. What does that mean? It's not just something I can do for a day. I've learned it's got to be something I can do for a decade, and I can scale it and teach it to other people. So I have a career that's over 30 years. I've built
Mm-hmm.
the top of 5 companies. I've been in a place where broke would have been a good place to be financially, and I was emotionally devastated. I've built a business that currently today is over, 13, 14 years old. I am back building again in the field because I just enjoyed that challenge and I want to bring what I've learned to the field. I've been 10 years as president of the Association of Network Marketing Professionals. And here's one of the most important ones that I can share with people: perspective. And what the thinker thinks, the prover proves. So this is so important. I can literally help anyone today get to where they need to go, because I think we've generally got 3 types of perspective. One is poison. In other words, it's literally killing you. And people bring to it, I am no good. No one wants my products. In other words, they have an absolute view of the world, and that is poison, particularly if it's negative, because what the thinker thinks, the prover proves. You'll go out and prove that. And people don't realize that, but I hear you talk about it. The RAS, the reticular activating system, if that is your RAS, it's going to find situations that will affirm those beliefs. And that is an absolute that I've learned over and over again. So when for myself or with someone else, I want to look and find out what are those perspectives. There's another one, which is perspective's poison. The next one is it's a prison. In other words, that prison is keeping you inside a box. You're locking onto something, but you're locking something else out. Does that make sense, Blake? In other words, and a lot of people have this one, and you got to learn how do I coach people out now? I'll give you how I did that. And then the other one is a powerful perspective. In other words, it's a growth perspective. It's a possibility perspective. And that's the one you're looking to get people in. When I first got started, one of my mentors, he goes, you're going to raise your life up to the height of your limiting belief.
Ooh, say that again.
You're going to raise your life up to the height of your most limiting beliefs. And I had all these limiting beliefs. But here's what's also true. He said, you're telling that stay stuck story so well. Stay stuck story so well. You've got so good at that presentation. You're actually fighting for your limitations. And so many of us don't realize that. And I will tell you that most coaches today are so want to be loved. They're not willing to be a coach. They always only want to be a cheerleader. So cheerleaders will only hug you. And when the only tool you have in the toolbox is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. When the only tool you have in the toolbox is hugging, there's nothing wrong with hugging. That's a good place to start with the connection. But a hugging may need to move to a nudging, where you nudge somebody off their position. And it may need to move to a little bit of pushing, where you push somebody into a higher level, pushing somebody up to see a greater level of possibility. And how do you move through that? How do you help people through that? So go back to where that conversation, he said, Garrett, you need to rip all these things up. And that's something that I did, and I learned how to do that. We don't have time to go into all that right now, but when you learn how to do that, you create a new conversation. Your reticular activating system looks differently. In fact, if we have time, we can talk about it, write it down. It's called the golden hour. I learned a precise way that I've used over 30 years to help me and anyone else change their reticular activating system, rip up those notes, and to do on a daily basis. Because if you can't do it, it's got to be something that works for the day that you could ultimately do for a decade. I've done it now for 3 decades. Number one. So in the golden hour, the first thing that I do is I pray. And I take a few minutes and I just say the Lord's Prayer. I say 2 or 3 prayers. And I pray from a place of gratitude. The next thing is I write 10 pages of a good book. So why do you read 10 pages of a good book? 2 reasons. Number one, it cleanses you of the day you just had. Remember I said resentment, frustrations. You need cleansing of the day you just had. And you need to be inspired. And you want to be challenged to have a better day. Because if all you can do, you saw me speak about this in the DSU, get 1% better every single day. In other words, get the slight edge going in that direction, that upward curve. That's what you want to do. You want to be in the upward curve, not the downward curve. In other words, you got to be able to do the things on a daily basis when you're in the invisible results. They're going to take you to where you want to go. So that's the first one, prayer, like I talked about, 10 pages of a good book. So when you look at that, then the next thing that you want to be able to do is you want to use this formula. V times I times E equals your new reality. And your new reality is what your reticular activating system is going to move to. We all know the first one. And by the way, I got this from a guy called Dr. Bandura, who's considered the grandfather of psychology. And I was blessed to be with Lou Tice. And I asked Lou Tice, who run the Institute of Education, and I was sitting down over lunch and said, what's one of the most important things you've learned? He said, it's this. We all know visualization, Blake, but that is only 1/3. In fact, it's less than 1/3 of this powerful formula. We all create these vision boards. And nothing wrong with that, powerful. And we all learn how to vision. So that's one. But number 2 is I, which stands for imagination. And what imagination is put yourself in the picture. In other words, you imagine yourself let's say a few years ago, imagine what it's like to be with your wife and your current 8-year-old son, your 5-year-old daughter, living in the home that you're living in. You're running up and giving you a hug. You're inside in your house, the car that you're driving. In other words, you imagine the movement through the vision. And that takes it to a whole nother level of visualization. Now comes into your imagination. But here's the key. Times E, which is the most powerful piece, which is the emotion. What emotion do you feel? I saw you smile when I met, when I mentioned your 8-year-old, mentioned your 5-year-old, you know that when they jump into your arms, that those hugs, that emotional piece is the key. Because what that does is it takes you into gratitude. Like you can go through it and go, and just imagine describing this like it's in the past and it's already happened. So V times I times E equals your new reality. I can walk anyone through it if they have challenges with it, but it's a way to move your reticular activating system in the right way. It's a way to be able to rip up those pages. Does that make sense? To do it in a sustainable way. Now, here's the next part. You've got it. Emerson said, do the thing and you shall have the power. Faith without works is dead. Most people leave it there. That's not going to work. You got to quickly now then review the day you just had in 30-minute increments. Just quickly look at the day you just had in 30-minute increments. And then design the next day in 30-minute increments. In other words, what are the things they're going to put in? What's amazing is your reticular activating system is now moving towards that new vision, imagination, emotion. It'll actually bring forth you doing the things. Do the thing you should have the power. In other words, Emerson said, do the thing you should have the power. Much rain weareth the marmot. Doing the little things that are going to get you there. And you just set up a new calendar. Imagine doing that every day. And here's the last one. Write down the most powerful lesson you learned from today that you're going to invest in tomorrow. So that you're intentionally going to take that learning from today and invest it in tomorrow. Imagine doing that every single day. I don't need to imagine. I've done that now for decades.
I love it. What you just gave us, Garrett, you called it the golden hour, and it is absolute gold. And for those of you that are listening right now, he just gave you a system. Garrett, what I heard you share is your system, more than just personal growth, right? You can call it a personal growth development system, but a system that I hear when you share all of this, it's a bunch of different modalities, different lessons you probably collected from the best of the best as a student from 30 years that has taken you from all the challenges that life threw in front of you now to rewiring, right, into a mindset that is absolutely invincible. Guys, take that, right? I wrote it down. V times I times E, right, equals R, which is amazing. So thank you for that. For everybody that's listening, I hope you grab that system and immediately implement it. You try that for the next 30 days. You're going to start seeing noticeable results. Garrett, thank you for the system, giving us something that's simple that we could apply. Let's shift gears for a minute. We're talking a lot about personal growth and mindset, which you and I can go for days on this because that's my passion zone as well. But let's talk kind of business. You're recently re-engaging back in the field, which means you love this. And you also have a unique perspective with the seats that you sit in and ANMP of what's going on in the channel. Why direct selling? And I'm gonna caveat this by just creating a common definition for the sake of the question. When I say direct selling, I'm talking about all the variations that exist today of our business model. So anything that has kind of an incentivized word of mouth. I know we have a bunch of different terms we use these days, whether it's influencer or affiliate or direct sales or network marketing. Let's just call all the things direct selling. Why this business model over all the other opportunities today, over the gig economy exploding, over this influencer creator economy that's happening? Like, why this business model as an entrepreneur today in your mind?
I feel that network marketing has something better to offer if you know how to articulate it. So again, it's that fact stack. I believe, have you ever noticed that new people that come on board, they go through this emotional roller coaster? So one of the things I like to teach people, I call it the fact stack. You can do it in every company that you're in. So get together with your CEO, your president, your C-suite, your top leaders, and decide what your fact stack is. What are the facts? Because this emotional roller coaster only goes down to the lowest, to the height or the level of the facts. So if you have a lot of facts, you can just, you'll go up here. If you don't have facts, you'll go through all of this. So if you look at that, how do you stack them up so people look at it? So the gig economy, that's a really good one. 100% of people who don't take the first step don't take the second step. So I don't think we have enough people coming into network marketing because a lot of them are going towards the gig economy. And I get why they're going towards the gig economy. So what might we have that might be different, in my mind, better, but it don't, than the gig economy? Number one, we have got to be able to show people how they can make money relatively immediately. And I think companies have figured that out. We've moved more towards a customer-centric model. We've moved more of our compensation plan towards the front end. A lot of companies today are, paying 20, 25, 30, 35% of the front end. And I think that that's important in order to be able to compete with the gig economy. We talked about that. But you and I are of the belief the gig economy is strong, and I think that the gig economy is actually, like you said, normalizing having a second, normalizing having additional income, normalizing finding customers. But there's two additional pieces that I believe we have an advantage. And you and I believe very strongly in this, Blake. And I loved your talk when you closed out the DSU. You said the normalization of having a second income, the normalization of this is important for us to embrace. So what do we have that's in addition to? I think there's two very strong pieces. One is a lot of the gig economy, you get paid one time. So influencers that sell a product, they get paid one time, pretty significant amount of money. If they get paid a second time, it's generally less. So with with network marketing, what we do is we'll not just pay you once, we'll pay you over and over and over again. In other words, results create a repeat purchase, and a repeat purchase can create a ripple effect. That repeat purchase, there's no such thing as residual income in network marketing. Repeat purchases create repeat income. So the key is repeat purchases. The difference with network marketing is we'll repeat pay you. Does that make sense? In other words, that's the big part, but there's another part. There needs to be more than just money. There's the mission. And the mission piece is the culture, the community, because you're not doing it on your own. When you're an Uber driver and it's raining outside and you get outside in your car and somebody gets into your car, you get paid one time. You don't get paid the next time that person gets into another car. That's someone else's customer. With us, and you have to leave your home and you're on your own. With us here, you have a community. And I believe that mission piece of it, I think enough of us are not leaning into it. More people want to feel a sense of belonging. So learning how to intentionally, and I underline that word, create culture is important. It's not how much love you have for your people that's important. It's not how much love you have for your customer it's important. That may sound crazy. It's how much love do they feel that you have for them that's important. So I have a whole thing about how do you intentionally create culture, create community, have people feel appreciated, love at scale, having it being real, having it being authentic. I believe that is the future. You got to know how to do that. And that's the front end. Then the next part is there is no opportunity for leverage in the gig economy. You're always exchanging hours for dollars. So you've got to help people understand in this culture, when I talked about the mission, what's the difference you're making in the world? Because if you're only competing on money, you're going to lose. Because money is good, repeat money is better, but you know what the best is? Money, repeat money, mission. What difference are you making in the world?
Well, I think that the fact stack, Garrett, you just gave, and I'm gonna use that term. So for all of us there, I love the fact stack, right? Where this channel, right? This opportunity that we're all in, and I know all of us listening, hey, let's just call it like it is. We're all biased. We're all here. We're all in the same lane. We're all going the same direction. But what Garrett's saying, those are the facts. This business model, repeatable, income. I love that. Leverage, meaning we have the ability to get beyond just our own efforts, a truly leveraged business model. And I'm so glad you went beyond those facts to talk about aligning with a mission, a greater purpose, culture, community, and the ability to grow in our own leadership development. So for all of us out there, that's a fact stack we need to remember in order to stay focused and block out all the distractions and put in what we need to in the lane that we're in this channel. I do believe we are going into an amazing season for direct selling. Garrett, at the time that this episode gets published and gets put out to the world, we would have just kicked off a brand new year, right? So we're at the start of a brand new year. So it'd be remiss for me to have time with you, someone who's obviously intentional about your personal growth systems. We got the golden hour, right? You are a master student. You've given us so many nuggets just in today's conversation. Anything you want to give from the perspective of starting a brand new year? It's the time where we level set our goals. Maybe we do the resolution thing. Do you have a framework? Do you have a system? Do you have a routine that you do or something you teach to make sure that our year is off to a great start? And this is just an absolutely epic year for all of us.
I think that most of us need to realize there's more greatness in us than we actually give ourselves credit for. I think many of us are creating goals that are too small. I think that we always want things to happen immediately. What is it Tony Robbins says? We underestimate what we can do in 5 years and we overestimate what we can do in 90 days. I think network marketing has become overly focused on the 90 days, the quantum leap. I think it's important. Don't get me wrong. We think in seasons, but look at what could you do over the course of the year. Really set that intentionality, that goal, not what you can do for a day, but what could you do for a decade? What could you see yourself sustaining for a year? And then you break it down into 90-day goals, January, February, March, and breaking those down. So I've got some pretty big goals. I don't want to share them here, but I think that everybody should get with a mentor that is at the level in their support team that they want to get around and put down a plan. I think these are things that I've learned, and let's finish with this, Blake. Number one that I've learned is most of us wish that we worked every day of the month like we did the last day of the month. We wish we worked every hour like we did the last hour. What if we had a new level of intentionality with around the sense of urgency and intensity that we worked? Number two, what if we really did have the golden hour or something like it we put into our lives on a daily basis? And we were clear about what it is that we want to do. I think, you should attend events, you should get educated. I think you should go to everything you can that your company offers. Blake, and I'm going to say this, I think that leaders that are on here should promote your podcast. I think it's amazing because I truly believe in education. If you're the smartest person in the room, you need to be in the new room. There's a book that I just recently read called Burn the Boats. And it's one of the things that I believe in, that when you're in groupthink, you lock onto certain things, you lock out other growth opportunities. Maybe there's ideas that you're going to learn. Sherilyn, shared some growth mindset, from last week that I really loved. Darnell Self has shared some great one. Onyx Cole has shared some great. Patrick Munster, shared some great ones. There's so much that has already been shared that I think can help people create a new vision for the future. I read an average of a book a week.
Oh, wow.
And that is legit for 30 years. And, when we moved from Dallas, that was the biggest part of our move because you had to do it by weight. And they're going, what was the heaviest part of the move that when we moved from Dallas to the Pacific Northwest? It was my books and journals. And that's the last thing I'll say. Focus on learning.
Garrett, I want to be mindful of time and I want to leave, a minute for any closing thoughts. I know we've covered a lot on today's conversation, but before we get to closing thoughts, I just want to do a quick rapid fire. So this is a rapid fire round. I'm going to ask you 3 questions. I've asked similar questions of all the guests and there's no right or wrong answer. This is just top of mind, 1 or 2 sentences. First thing that comes to my mind. And it gets into what I'm really passionate about. Obviously, this is direct selling shift. And for
Yes.
those that have heard my story, I've shared that I had moments in my life that have proven to me the power of a single shift. And I am obsessed, and I love learning other people's shift moments that have led to who they are and where they are today. So I want to ask you, just first, professionally. Okay. So we've talked a lot about your career, 30 years, direct selling. Professionally, what's one of the single largest shifts, perspective shifts, mindset shifts? You went from telling yourself one thing to rewiring, like we talked about in this conversation, to something else. What's one of the largest, most significant shifts in your professional life to date that you're willing to share?
Yeah. So I say this to everyone. You and God are a majority. If you and God are a majority, and you're far more powerful than you believe. And when you put that together, you're unstoppable. It's not other people's opinions. So that's important. And you're looking for people who are looking for you. Your job is to find them, not create them, not cajole them, not convince them, find them. When they're in the looking zone looking for you, they will see you because their reticular activating system is looking for you. And you're looking for people who are looking for you who want to do something about their current situation. Lots of people want to talk lots. They don't want to do anything. You're looking for people who want to do things who ultimately will finish. In other words, they'll go the distance with you. Some people will go all the way, some people will go some of the way, but that's what you're looking for. That is the mindset that's going to create the success that you're looking for. And that's what's worked for me.
Powerful. Same question, but personally. So on your personal journey, right, along your life, what has been one of the most significant shifts that have helped you through a certain time or help you become who you are today on the personal level?
Surrender. So that may sound like not a strong one for a leader, but I'm a person of faith, however you choose to organize your life. And I believe in God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit pouring into my life. And my life is more powerful when I surrender to it. But I understand that faith without works is dead. When you pray to God for guidance, you need to be prepared to get up in the morning and move your feet. It's that balance with that and learning how to listen and inspire and lead other people from that place. That is what I'm looking to become better at as a husband, as a father, as a human being, and just to be a good example and learn from others.
So good. And last one's kind of a visionary question. And I'm actually really curious your answer to this because I know with the seats you sit in and your experience, you have a unique perspective across the channel. So this is kind of idealistic. I think the last data point I saw was from the DSA that said there's like, I don't know, 115 million of us across the world that are distributors, consultants, and direct selling brands. So my question for you is if you could snap your fingers right now and immediately give every single independent entrepreneur in this channel everywhere a single belief shift in this moment, what shift would you give them?
Network marketing is a profession. And this is the shift because when something's a profession, what's immediately implied that learning is involved before earning. So you can earn while you learn, which is really important. The second thing is that continuing education is required. And I think that that's the constant building. And the third one is that there is a standard in a profession that is considered that you want people raised up to. Be that standard. I want my 16-year-old son and the people in the future, and when they're thinking about a career, whether it is spare time, part-time, full-time, that this is one of those that people say, you know what, that's a good choice, and people understand the value in it and the difference that comes from it. I don't like to tell people we have a better way. We just have another way, which may be the way that you're looking for. We just need people to be aware of it and realize that it is professional, it is powerful, it is redemptive, and it is beautiful.
Well, Garrett, we've covered a lot of ground in today's conversation. I love the wisdom you gave us for our own mindset shifts. The golden hour, that in itself is a framework that can change every listener if they just attempt to apply that to their lives. I mean, let it go. Let it go. Don't get stuck, right, in our story, like you said. Use the pain that we go through, right? Our trials, our tribulations, our challenges as things that make us better, right? And we learned that from you sharing your own personal stories and triumph. And I love that you gave us some like tactical, right, strategies that we can apply. I know we're all going to be thinking community. We're all going to be thinking how we can have this intentional integration of online and offline and social and in person. So much today. And obviously the shifts that you just gave. Any other closing thoughts you want to give? Anything else on your mind or your heart before we round out today's conversation?
I want people to realize they are good enough. I think part of the challenge when you listen to something, you somehow feel like that there's an inadequacy. There's not. You're far more powerful than you believe. You and God are a majority. You can make this happen. You don't, it doesn't have to all happen in one go. I think we overly edify the 90-day run, and we overly edify the people with these quantum leaps. The reality is, people that are doing the simple things on a daily basis are creating the results. Because in the end of the day, network marketing is a large group of people who do a few simple things consistently over time that works. All you need to be is a good example and do those simple things over time, and you will find other people who want to do those simple things over time, and you'll get to where you want to go. It's not a rush. It's not how fast you go, it's how far you go. And we can go very far together. And I'm very excited. And I don't mean this, Blake. I have huge amount of respect for DSN with Stuart Johnson and you and all the different Patricia and the whole team that's there, Shelly. And it's just so much fun to be with you guys and to be associated with you guys. So remember that law of association. Who are you associated with? Are they inspiring you, raising you up to a new level? And Blake, I want to wish you a brilliant end of year as well to you and your wife and your family, and to the team that you are leading and the corporate team. And just know that I have a lot of respect for you. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to share here. I'm looking forward to just a new future together, and looking forward to a great 2024.
Garrett, I appreciate the words, and I appreciate the time you gave to all of us, and beyond the time, the energy, the perspective, the wisdom. So good and so much, and everything you're doing for our channel through the associations and just who you are. So for everybody tuning in, I know you got something today. Let us know. Drop by the podcast. Leave us a review. Garrett and I, that's how we get a pulse on what we're doing that's relevant, the impact we're making. We're only here taking time away from our day-to-day to make an impact, to add value, and your feedback matters. As I always say, a shift is a gift. A single shift at the right time can change everything. And I know there's a part of what Garrett shared with all of us today that is going to resonate with people right now alongside you on this direct selling journey. So make sure you share the episode. DSN does a great job putting out clips. You can drop by the social, share the clips, share the episodes. We appreciate all of that. And directsellingshift.com, that's the website and the place you can nominate potential future guests, or let us know topics or themes that you feel are most relevant right now. Garrett, thank you so much for your time and the wisdom today. And for everybody hanging with us, we'll see you next time.
Thank you.